Let's go. What up, what up, what up, what up? It's your man Black Cobra back once again with the Wheel Life Show. Yes, again, we are going to talk about PEVs and all things electric. We have a whole lot to talk about this week. We are going to talk to the mad engineer, I call him. He is none other than the one and only Declan. He's got a whole bunch of knowledge, a whole bunch of information, and we're gonna bring him on in a second. But just in case you have no idea what we're doing here, because I know I used to do this quite frequently, but now I do it every now and then. This is the Wheel Life Show, as I said, and here we are talking about all things electric. I know that there are tons of different vehicles, and we tend to focus on electric unicycles. EUCs tend to be our favorite, but we also, we like scooters, we like e-bikes, we like one wheels, we like, e-skates, we like all those things. It just happens that EUCs have kind of captured our hearts around here, so we talk about all things that have to do with it. There are tons of events that we've had over the last few years, and tons of events that we have coming up. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. We're also going to talk about what Declan has been doing, because he's been making some creative wheels and taking them to different events and on this recent journey he's done. So we're going to talk about that, the competition by eWheels, and what that all entailed, because I need to be enlightened myself, because I really wasn't up on it. And Declan gave me some information, and I'm bringing him on to give that information to you. So without further ado, let's bring in the one and only Declan, the man, the myth, the legend.
Thank you, Cobra. It's great to be here back on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. It's good to have you, buddy. Do me a favor, center yourself. I don't know if you can quite tell. Right. Little bit down, a little bit. There we go. I wanted to see that amped on your chest too. Right. If you guys don't know, right? Yeah, right now we're rocking the two top events, in my opinion. He's got Amped Electric Games, and I got the Wheel Life Show, same logo as the Wheel Life Rally coming up soon. Both of these events coming up over the next several months, so stay tuned for that. So Declan, my man, we got a lot to talk about, brother. You have been at it again. You are always creating something, and I call you the mad scientist, the mad engineer. Like, I swear, I tell you, people that are watching, wait till you see what he has in store for you tonight. He has some crazy stuff. I'm looking at some photos on my right here, and I'm like, whoa, he's got some crazy stuff that he's created, and he's come up with some wild stuff. Before I get any further, though, I do want to do a test. So I'm gonna say what's up to you guys in the chat, guys. Let me know how the audio sounds for both of us. Declan, give me a 1-2. Give me a 1-2.
1-2. Can you hear me? Okay, everyone. Checking in. All right.
How do we sound compared to each other? Is the vocals good on both? I think mine is up a little loud. I may move my mic back. I do got a big mouth. You guys know that. We got E. Simon in the house. E. Simon, good day, mate. Good day. Good to see you, E. Simon. We got Spartacus in the house. We also have Primo, my man Primo. Like he said, like and subscribe.
Worcester.
Some bitches.
Down for me. Love Worcester.
Yo, Primo's the mag. Now, Primo, that's another event, the Worcester Takeover. Are you going to be there, Declan? Are you going to make that?
I saw it recently. It's very appealing, but I have to check my schedule.
Let me know if you can make it. Let me know.
Sure.
Hey, Primo, I got something for you. Someone said they might be able to switch with me and work for me on Saturday. If they can switch with me, now they have to tell me what day they want me to work for them. If I can work it out, I might be able to make the whole day. I don't know. It's because I told him I'm going to be there like 5. I'm going to come after work, and he was going to stay and do an extra ride for me and try and do something like that. But if I can get the day off, I might be able to work a little magic, Primo. So stay tuned, my friend. Stay tuned. I also want to say what's up to Stan in the house. The Last Warrior, what's up? He's in
But
the
yeah, Edwin.
house.
Edwin's the man, a big DIYer for EUCs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Edwin has lots of creative ideas. He's
Okay,
mounted his phone to his Sherman S and a big cargo rack. Everyone's always captivated by how much cargo space he has,
okay.
even when it's usually empty.
Well, we got Spartacus, Fresh Bones in the house. What up, fam? What up? We got Wheelie Brady in the house. What up? What up? What
Hey,
up? Yo, yo, Wheelie Brady, the one and only. Yes, another member of
very
the
talented
AMP team.
racer. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Friend of Amp Games, one of the team.
So, I before I get too carried away, because you know I will, Declan, why don't you do me a favor for those who may not know you? Give him an introduction, give them a little bit of your history, so they know who the engineer is.
Sure, absolutely. So I've been riding EUCs for 6.5 years, and prior to that, I had been competing with regular unicycles. So I brought out my hat from 2019. This is the North American Unicycle Conference and Competition. So I was big into mountain unicycling, and that's really my background. So I've always been about riding and racing and pushing the device to the limit, whatever that may be. Um, and since then, I've been riding all different types of PEVs, mostly unicycles. I've had all different sizes. So earlier on, I had small wheels, and I had cut out on basically every model that I had purchased, and I would keep sizing up over time. And from there, about 4 years into my riding career, I took it on myself to. I'd been doing minor repairs, and at that point, I got very serious about repairing the machines, and I took on more of an engineering role. I had taken that applied research of riding the device to its absolute limits, seeing where it fails, and then iterating on that and improving on those weak points in so many different ways that I'm happy to get into, but that's really my background, is riding and racing, pushing the wheels as hard as they can go, and then fixing things when they break, wherever that may occur.
Okay, so that's how your tinkering started, huh? Fixing
Right.
what you were breaking.
Yeah.
Well, in the chat, we got a question for you already in the chat. He said, Declan, are you a New York NYC or a DC rider?
I love that question. It's a great question because it invites choosing a team and picking who you align yourself with. But really, I align myself with the entire EUC community. And there's so many different cities where I know different folks that I can hit up and go riding. And that's all it means to be from somewhere, is to have other people to ride with. So
Mm-hmm.
I love riding in New York. I love riding in DC. I love riding in many other places that I've been to recently: Toronto, North Carolina, Bentonville, Arkansas. There's
Mm-hmm.
too many to name.
But
So
where do you live?
I'm DC based,
Okay,
Washington DC. Yep, East
okay.
Coast
So
all the way.
so he lives in DC,
That's right.
but he's not just repping DC. That's what I'm
That's
hearing. I'm hearing he's an all around the way kind of dude, and he's a rider from all over.
and don't get me wrong, I love DC, and that's where my roots are, and I'm riding there all the time, and so it's just yeah, you don't need to pigeonhole yourself into any one place. I'm a
No,
citizen of the world.
one thing I do want to say to people out there, no, hold on. He said, "Yo, the last warrior said GodMod cured my cancer." Oh man. Oh well. Two things. Number one, if you did have cancer, God bless you, and I thank God if you are in remission or cured. But I'm hoping that you mean your wheel cancer, and that's
That's
I hope that's where you're going with that.
a good way to put it.
Yeah, because let me tell you right now, and excuse me, my eyes are watering and itchy and red. My allergies
Yep.
are kicking my
Bless you.
ass right now. um,
No worries.
and I was telling Declan, I was just out in the yard cooking on the grill real quick. Uh, excuse me, but before I was able to come in and jump on here, and of course that means I was in the backyard, and that's where all the stuff
All the
comes.
pollen. Yep.
Oh my god. Even my grill, I got one of those new Blackstone griddles. Ooh, love my Blackstone griddle. Oh man, but it was covered in pollen. I'm like, God, I had
Oh
to
my.
wipe it all off first
Yep.
before even touching it. So,
Wow.
all of that is to say, yeah, my eyes are gonna be terrible. I was gonna put my glasses on and hope that helps, but unfortunately, even with these, I'm still gonna get, I have to wipe my eyes and stuff. So I'm like,
Yep.
never mind. I'll just leave them off. But anyway,
Even better.
um, let's see what else we got. Dope. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Just so you guys know, Declan's an engineer. He
That's right.
built all the craziest stuff. GodMod, and actually, I want you to explain what GodMod is
Absolutely. Yep.
because somebody asked on the last live stream I watched with Primo. There, they were talking about GodMod, and somebody asked,
Yep.
"Well, what is it
So,
actually?"
so
But
many questions all the time.
yeah, but what I want people to know first and foremost is Declan can ride. I want you guys to understand that he may be a mad genius. He may be real
You got
good
me there.
at technical, but the man can ride. He's one foot and doing all kinds of crazy twisted up positions while he's riding. The man's got balance. And I know you guys weren't at Hyperfest. We were just at Hyperfest, just so you know, because we're both members of the Amped Electric Games team, and we were just out there we put on 10 shows while we were out at Hyperfest. Amped was kicking ass. We did 10 shows, multiple over 3 days, and there were over 24,000 people there. Not that they all came to watch, because, obviously they were all about the gas vehicles, and then we had our little electric unicycles. So they were like, but we were able to tip the scales in our favor in a lot of people's minds. So we had a great time out there, and Declan was doing the damn thing. He was part of the show. He was racing. He was showing his skills. And I'll be honest, Declan, I forgot how good you can ride. I
Oh,
was like,
you got me touched.
yo, man, I was like,
He's
damn,
just
I
having
forgot.
fun. He's goofing
Yeah.
off for a crowd. That's all.
Well, what's your favorite type of riding though? Like off road, racing on the street.
Yep.
You got balance, so dancing around on the wheel. What do you like the most on the wheel?
It's a great question, and it really comes down to having the best conditions. So I love riding in traffic, but then I've recently found some really great trails, and those were tons of fun. So I think the best answer is variety and keeping
Mm-hmm.
something new. I like obstacles and going around varying terrain. So anything that's a varied riding course, nothing that's continuously the same. That's really the only thing that is harder to get excited about. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love traffic. My claim to fame is one of the fastest traffic riders on the East Coast. But Turbo's got me beat consistently. Shout out to Turbo. He wins the Broadway Bomb every time.
Turbo. That's right, my man
Yep.
Turbo.
But
Um,
that's my favorite. That's what I go back to. That's how I get to work. That's how I go around on the day to day. So just really perfecting the art of moving through tight spaces and not and getting out of other people's way. I love the art. I've started Intro to Traffic, which is a course on how to safely navigate these conditions, and I'll be building that out some more. But I really focus on giving tips and advice on how to navigate tight spaces with people in the way. And another talented rider who's helped with these kinds of lessons is Landy. So he's a friend of mine, a DC rider, and he's very knowledgeable at managing his risk while still riding at a high speed. And
Mhm.
he's very capable in those kinds of situations, the dense traffic with limited space.
So now, in case you guys aren't catching that, so now we have intro to speed, we
Mm-hmm.
have intro to dirt, which
Yep,
Nico's
yep,
he's taking
yep.
up,
Shout
and
out
now
to
we got
Nico
intro
for
to
starting that
traffic.
course. Yep, Nico's the man. He's helped a lot of people progress a lot in the off-road space and
Yeah,
build up jumping and trail skills with Intro to Dirt. So I think it's a great course that we now have some variety in the riding lessons, and it
yeah,
brings
I,
people
I
together.
like it. Yeah,
Yep.
I really, really like it. I think it's amazing. Um, the only thing for me is it's not all here and around here, so I gotta start
Yep.
traveling more. I haven't even been down to ride in DC yet. I never
Oh,
make
you
it.
love it.
Every
We
year I
have
want to
every
make it down there, and I'm like,
Yep,
dang man. So I'm gonna make it this year. I vow.
yep.
I mean, as we
We've
all
got our big
know, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We've got our big opener ride this weekend, so there's definitely going to be some folks from out of town. It's more in Eastgate. Yeah, definitely, it's our season opener. So then after that, there's going to be weekly rides. So yeah, it's never a bad
Okay.
time to visit DC and post up in our chats. Tell people you're here. You'll find someone to ride with. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Hey, I want to come down that way. I want to check my girl V. I haven't talked to V in a
Oh
while.
man, V has been out of the picture for a little while, and
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
it's
I
yeah,
know she dipped a
she's
little
great.
left, and
Yeah,
and I think she's been handling her
that's
family
right.
stuff or
That's right.
whatever.
No,
So
yeah, we all need our time sometimes.
hold on, yo, Devo, you stupid. We all these intros, and Devo said he's gonna be hosting intro to drugs. Yo, you,
Oh man. Oh
we,
no.
we ain't doing that one, Devo. We ain't doing that one. Because I think
That's
nobody
right.
needs an intro to that. There's already enough people got their own intro to that.
Yep.
Uh, so Primo said Declan on the East Coast versus Roger on the West Coast would be epic.
Yep. Roger's the man. Shout out to Roger. We went riding up Mount Baldy. Roger and Don, they're so fast, so talented in the mountains. It's really
Mm-hmm.
great to see them in their element. But that's great point, Primo. It's not about who's the best overall. It's about who's the best on any particular course. And so
Yep.
everybody has the terrain and the obstacles they're used to dealing with, weather hazards, things of that nature. So, even Roger himself has admitted that in traffic, he's not going to play with the East Coast. And that's cool.
He knows what's up. He knows what's up when it comes to that. But don't get me
But he
wrong,
at
though.
AVS, he's got the fastest time, and no one's able to touch it. And
Yep.
it's very impressive because it's a very difficult course. So
Roger
shout
got
out to
mad
Roger.
skills.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
and
no,
John as well.
yeah,
She's
no doubt.
able to
I
hang with
went
the
up
best
Mount
of them.
Baldy, and they are out like,
you want to tell the story of the time
yeah,
you nearly
yeah.
saw the cliff?
Yo,
that,
I look,
that was
that
something. The
that
wind.
cliff was
Yep,
calling my name. Yo, I
yep.
was like, I was that close to going off the edge of the cliff. I
Terrifying.
swear
Yep.
that I got that death wobble. Tried to
Oh
recover.
man.
The corner said, and I was like,
Oh, they sneak up on you like that. It's just a full turn that you don't see coming. And on the East Coast, we got cars that'll be threatening you, but on the West Coast, they got the cliff's edge, a mountain
mm-hmm.
with no shoulder.
Yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
no joke. It's no
Yes.
joke.
No.
I'm telling you right now, I ain't scared. There ain't much that scares me,
That's
but
right.
let me
That's right.
tell
I had
you,
never been so scared on a ride.
but looking
It
off
was the
that
first time in
cliff,
a long time. I was
mm-mm,
truly fearful. Just you really have to trust your machine because that's all you've got keeping you on the mountain,
that's for
not
sure.
off the side of it.
It is definitely not something that for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that right now.
Definitely,
It's something that you got to be ready for. But it was an amazing, amazing ride. I
such a
truly
great
was
ride.
blessed to be
Marty
out
took
there.
us on a great ride, and admittedly, I had thought from other people teasing him that it was going to be a very casual, leisurely ride, but no, he was pushing the limits, and he gave us room to open it up. But when we went into the off-road course, I mean, he dusted everybody, and I took off. He took off without the rest of the group, and I was the only one with them because I realized he was going to get away from us quick. I was impressed. Marty's the man. Shout out to Marty.
Yeah, shout out to Marty,
Mhm.
out there rocking that Falcon right now.
Right for
Uh,
years. Yeah, must be nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But he showed me something I didn't know. I was glad that he showed me that it was little. I didn't realize that it was really
Right.
the size of the A2. I was like, I thought
That's
it was
right.
bigger
It's
than that.
tiny. Yep.
Yeah,
But
the
the
video
stock,
he posted yesterday, he put it next to the A2, and I was like, ooh.
I'm glad there's attention on tiny wheels because I think it's an oversight right now that small wheels are definitely uh, a new frontier.
Yeah,
Small and light with power,
yeah.
and that's something I'm looking into.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was liking looking at the Falcon because you don't want to cut those little wheels out. You want them powerful,
That's
but
right. That's right.
little wheels with that compact, form factor allow you to do a whole lot. Um,
That's right.
uh, Shouts out to James, senior E moment. What's going on, man? That's James. That's Zach's dad.
James, yep, James Burnell, the part of the EUC Dynasty father son team. Very talented
Yes.
racers, and they brought some very impressive wheels to AVS. They had some powerful juice under the hood.
Yeah. He said he missed Mount Baldy after AVS. Yeah, you did,
Oh
because that was
man,
one. That
it
was when
was
I did it. That was
another life changing experience. Definitely.
so happy, so
Yep.
happy I got to do
Yep.
that. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's one of those, and you're right, life changing, life
Yep.
altering, life defining. That's one
For
of those
sure.
things that I truly, I was in my mind, I was thinking, you know what, I have to do this one day. One day I have to do this,
Yes,
and
that's
and
right.
being
That's
there, I
what I
was
had been
like,
told.
yeah, I
Yep.
said this. I see why they say that, because
Yep.
it's not
Definitely.
something that you can talk about. You got to be about. It's wild. Yeah.
Yep. I
So
think that's you.
Stan said, I was always curious from a technical perspective if InMotion's choice for using high performance Raptor boards um, matted with a 4,000 watt motors and limiting their speed so much, is there a benefit? Well, the benefit is you don't cut the wheel out and break your face. That's the benefit. That's why they give you such a big gap and they limit it. Um,
So it's
my thing is they need to give you the ability to lessen that if you want to. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Lessen that
Right.
gap.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, the whole
They,
field weakening thing, so that if you want to go faster at your own risk, go for it.
mhm.
But for those
That's
of us who are not tinkering with the wheel, we're not going to break our face.
Yep, yep, I agree. Yeah, and so with the InMotion, I actually have one that I've been working on. So, side note, it's a real pain to work on. That's just the start of it. But in terms of its performance, it is a very powerful wheel, and it's funny enough. The batteries are actually the weakest point on that EUC. The motor itself has twice the amount of copper as a master motor, so it really carries a lot of current very efficiently. The control board, it has a lot of MOSFETs, a lot of capacitors. The phase wires on the motor are very thick as well, so it really is set up to be a high performance machine. And then it's funny because again, the battery is where they cheaped out, which it's always going to be a weak point somewhere. But then they set it up in such a way that it's very difficult to work with in terms of improving the battery or installing your own. The
Yeah.
BMS has communication with the motherboard, so you can't really uh, do too much. You would need to mirror that signal somehow, and yeah, it's a bit of a pain. But in terms of the performance of the wheel and what it's capable of, I have seen it uh, do quite a lot. So there are a few riders I know of. Mike from DC, a very talented racer. Shout out to Mike. He's pushed it to very high speeds, and you're able to really mash on it and just lean into it. The tilt back that it provides seems to be enough for some folks to know when to pull back, but it's not always there. We have seen cases where you can overlean and cut it out still. So it's not an absolute. That's really they're using the firmware to maximize what they have available in the hardware, and it could do more if it were built a little bit better. And that's really what I'm about is finding those weak points. And you could say, okay, how do I know this? Well, I've disassembled it. I've had all the pieces apart, compared them to other wheels, others that I've made and seen assembled, and so it's a process that comes from experience. It's not
and
how
and
does one know anything? It's inferences from other facts that we know for sure.
well,
Uh, yeah,
one of
go
the
ahead.
things I would say on that is, no matter what wheel it is, there is a weak point, like you just said. So
Exactly.
people think, oh, well, they built it that way with all that overhead. And when I say you're not going to break your face, what I mean is during normal operation, there's always a way to overpower a wheel. These are machines that are designed to do a certain thing. And when we know what they can do, what do? We push past it because that's what we do. So, yes, you can cut it out, but they design it in such a way that it's harder to cut out than wheels that don't have the high overhead that they have. That's all. It just gives you a little bit more play, and in normal use, you don't have to worry about it. And I'll talk about that a little more with my experience. But we're here to talk to Declan because Declan has been doing some things, people. he has been doing some things. He has been making some race wheels. And somebody asked, what projects is he working on now? What collabs
I'm
is he
glad you
doing?
asked.
Yeah, and he's
We're gonna
got
get
he's
into
got a
it.
whole bunch that he needs to tell us about that he's been working on. He's got a string of wheels, and those wheels have been at different events and done different things. He just had another achievement on one of them, but we're gonna go into it. You can bring it any way you want, Declan. You tell me where you
Sure.
want to start and what you want to go to, and I'll let you run with it.
All right, great. Thank you. I will start from the smallest and work my way up, but I'll really do the first one is the most recent and maybe the most exciting for some folks. So I do have a lightly used ET Max here on the table that we're giving the full system upgrade to. If I'm not sure if you can see too
No, we
well.
can't. We can't see that. You got to pull it over, or turn the camera. One or two. No, still can't. Yeah, yeah. Turn the camera a little bit more. There we go. Now we can see it in the corner.
So we got
Yeah.
the ET Max here, and I've been working on it for a while and adding upgrades to it. This is for Peter, who is a fellow buddy of mine, a Reston rider, and he's been pushing the limits on this wheel and telling me, okay, it can do high mid to high 50 mile per hour on GPS, and so I'd like to get a little bit more out of it, and so I've ripped it apart, and from the insides, they've done things that are better. They've improved on the design in several different ways, but there are shortcomings of the wheel that we can address in our shop by rewiring the system, adding capacitors where necessary, and using the proper connectors and components. So that's what we've done with this one. It's not yet tested. You're seeing innovation takes time and it's a process. So, we're almost done with it. We're making some cosmetic upgrades, which ironically are taking the longest, but it's been a 2-year process researching how we can fundamentally redesign the wheel from the ground up to make it to extract more power from the components, and that's what we're doing with this one. So
And when you
this is the
say more power, this is one of the things that makes it difficult for me because that wheel kicks out a lot of power. I just took my brand new out of the box, not altered ET Max on a
yep,
group ride, and all I can
right.
say is, "Damn." Because I was flying.
Big
So
big
I,
spot.
I'm really
Yeah.
interested. So go ahead and tell me how you got more out of this ET Max.
Sure. Well, so to be clear, this one we haven't yet tested in particular, but all the upgrades we've done have had that effect on other wheels, particularly the Master we've spent the most time with. And what I mean when it produces more power, it makes more power, is that for a given input, a given amount of leaning, if you're leaning forwards some degree, any amount, you will get more acceleration from the wheel than you would previously. It's making more power. It's pushing you harder, faster, smoother than it was prior to the upgrades that we've done.
Aha, gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I want to know is this: is it a safety thing? Like, is there a way or what you're doing as you're elevating the amount of power that you're getting out of it? Are you
Yes.
able to elevate the amount of safety in regards to that?
Absolutely.
Excuse
So the net effect is a more safer riding experience all the way through the full cycle of the battery. So what that means is that if you were to exceed the limits of the motor, it will kick back smoother, more predictably, and with less effort than it otherwise would. Riders will note that if they overpower the motor, the pedals will get extremely soft, and if they're able to recover, it takes a high degree of balance and precision. But what these upgrades do are simplify that process and make that recovery experience more predictable and require less input from the rider. The wheel, it's another way to put it is that if you cut out, the wheel kicks back on its own much easier than it otherwise would.
Uh-huh. Okay, so somebody does have a question here in the chat.
And
Um
I'll show you this massive GodMod that we've equipped for this one because again, Peter is pushing the limits of this wheel, and he really wants to see what it can do. So a larger GodMod will give you a larger safety buffer where you can get more torque out of the wheel overall, and
oh,
that's
well,
that's the difference.
we never got to that, by the way, Declan. So go ahead and get
Sure.
to while you're talking about it. We never got to what GodMod is, how it
Nope.
works, and we were going to. Sorry, people, go for it.
There's too much to cover. So The GodMod is a type of battery that I've designed specifically for electric unicycles that gives you a safety buffer. It allows for your batteries to store their energy in a cache, and it's released into the motherboard when necessary if you were to encounter rough terrain or to go up a hill. And particularly in cold weather, the GodMod, it's a capacitor based battery, augments your traditional lithium battery and makes the system work more consistently, reliably, and predictably throughout the whole life cycle, throughout the cycle of the battery, all the way down to a low voltage.
Okay, so it gives you a reservoir, kind
That's
of.
right.
Yeah, so I guess think of it when you charge and when you charge your battery. Oh, I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to pop myself back in. When you charge your battery, right, on your wheel, the God mod is charged also at the same time, or is the God
Exactly.
mod charged off of the battery itself?
It's all charged at the same time throughout. The electricity is evenly distributed throughout the system, so it all charges through the original charge port.
Aha. Okay. Now that's one of the things that now for you guys that don't know, when I certain wheels I get, I'm like scared. Like the A2, when Marty cut out on the A2 and broke his ankle, I was nervous. So I had just gotten an A2, and I was like, Declan, my man, I need you. So Declan put a God mod on my A2 just to make sure I had a little buffer, and I appreciate that. Um,
Yep,
uh,
we got it done at Amp Games during the event. It was part of the repair booth that I was running, which is a whole other whole other story in itself. Yeah,
so
looking forward to it again this year.
yeah. So if you look, well, I think you're gonna have a lot more work this year, even though we're not doing speed flat track
Yeah,
blacktop speed races this year. We're gonna be doing more dirt races and things like that. So it'll be a little bit different, but I think there's gonna be a lot of need for help and modifications because people are gonna be doing some crazy off road stuff. So I think your
I'm
services will
ready.
be needed again. So, so you said you had the ET Max that you're working
Yep,
on right there, right? Then,
that's right.
then behind you, I see you have a bunch of other wheels. Well, before you get to those, was there anything else about the ET Max you wanted to talk about before we move on?
No, it just it's that's the latest and greatest, the hot new project I've got coming. Hopefully, finished this week,
Well, let
and we
me
put a
let
new
me.
tire on it as well. So that was
Oh,
yep.
let me see that. What'd you put on it? I didn't. Here,
The Michelin Pilot Street 2.
here.
This is the
Let me drop out and I'll see it. Okay.
yep.
Okay,
So
but
this is the popular tire. It's a little
isn't
bit
that the one that?
narrower than the stock tire, so it will reduce the gyro effect and make it easier to turn. And the rim
Uh,
is more akin to the master rim. It's skinnier, so the profile overall is rounded in such a way that you will get that nimble turning experience that people are looking for.
so you changed the tire and the rim.
No, no, I'm sorry. Just
Oh,
the we
okay.
just changed the tire.
Change the
Yep.
tire. Okay, because of the rim that it has, the tire will have that effect. Okay,
Yes,
gotcha.
exactly.
Now, which one did it come with? What tire did it come with? Do you
It came
remember?
with the. It is a new tire we haven't seen. It's this zigzag kind of tire. So allow me to fetch it from my tire rack. Uh, it's this zigzag kind of tire, but it's a little bit wide, and so what you get is just a very it's a gyro effect, which essentially pulls the wheel. If you're attempting to, I'll show you in the camera. If you're attempting to lean, the whole wheel is pulling you back to an upright position, so it makes it
Uh-huh.
very difficult to turn. And we actually observed this at Hyperfest that me being on a T4, a smaller, tinier wheel, I was so much further to the inside of the turns than Turbo was on his ET Max because of this particular tire. And
Huh.
so we suspect that it's far more, the handling is far more related to the tire than the overall weight of the wheel. And with this new tire, the ET Max should be much more nimble, closer to a master.
I need to look at that again because which tire is on the one oh, and it's the other
Oh,
thing, ladies and gentlemen. I have Declan to thank for the only damage to my brand new ET Max. Thank you, Declan. He dropped the ET Max at Hyperfest and damaged it
that's right.
before I even bought it.
I had to break it in for you and
Uh huh.
discover that lean angle. So
Uh
we
huh.
I went to make a U-turn, and I had noticed that it had a very low cutoff angle for the cut lean pedal cutoff angle for leaning, and so I had left it there sort of as an oversight. And when I made a U-turn, just a regular U-turn, the whole thing turned off on me. So definitely be aware of that if you're
Well,
a
I
trick
changed
rider.
we changed it right away. Right after
That's
you
good.
dropped it, we
Yeah,
changed it
yeah,
that
that's good.
that day. And
You
of
could
course
sharpie
I
over it.
yeah, well I put on that vertex protection
Oh, yep,
system on it. So
yep.
I have
This
the
one has that as well. It's a
yeah,
good
which
good upgrade.
protects all the corners and edges and everything.
Yep.
And the seat, even though the seat is not as thick as it could be, I was sitting on it for a few minutes and it's already taken the shape of my behind. I was like, no. But yeah, I was, but I had the opposite effect though. I mean, opposite experience with it. I
Right.
don't know which tire is on it. I didn't really
Oh,
look.
the same one it had. This
Okay.
one, the stock tire with that line in the middle. It's nine.
I,
Let's see. It's a 90/90, which is 10 millimeters wider than the traditional 80/90, the one that
See,
we've installed.
I like the tire that's on it. I really do.
It's more
And
stable. You know,
and
it's all about preference.
I'm able
Hmm.
to turn like we were going through these things and I was turning so like sharp. I was making these crazy turns and the people behind me were having trouble. I was like, I can
Oh man.
negotiate these tight turns with this big ass
Yep.
wheel. I was surprised. And I was like, I don't know what tire this is. I don't know what size, but I'm liking what I'm feeling so far. So but that was after we changed the angle. So
Right. Yeah. And it's still new, so after a
yeah.
little while it'll wear in more and uh, flatten out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So oh, there he is. Amped Electric Games, the one, the only Seth, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen,
shout out to
Seth
Seth.
Johnson. He said, "Hey, nice jersey." Yes, Seth. We were
uh,
just talking about the two events people have to go to is the Amped and the Wheel Life. So we represent them both right now, and we're loving it. Yeah, so yeah, I'm liking how it feels so far. So
yeah.
do you think? Well, is there a way that you can? Do you think you could add batteries to it?
Absolutely. I could add batteries to any UC like.
Because that's the one problem I have with the ET Max is the range. We did
Right.
a 42-mile ride and I was
Yep.
blazing and I was like, woohoo, having so
That's
much
about
fun
it.
speeding around. And
Yep.
we got to 42 miles at the end of that last mile. I was
You're
like, beep, beep,
good.
beep, beep. I was like, uh-oh.
That's what I found over time. 40 miles is really that sweet spot. Most wheels, for whatever they're capable of, can give you right around 40. And for the riding that I like to do that you're talking about, speedy and lots of accelerating. So I definitely could add batteries to the wheel, but it would compromise it in some other way of the weight, or it would be unevenly distributed unless we were to
Mm,
really start from the ground up. The
and
ET
split it.
Max is much more boxy, the way the Sherman S and subsequent Libra Kim wheels are, that the
Yeah,
batteries are built into the box, which is essentially the frame.
right.
So
So
it's hard to add to it easily,
unless
but
you do both sides. And you
that's
can't
right.
do both sides unless you change. I mean, would you have to like change the BMS? I mean, like, is there a way
It
to
does have
put
a
like,
smart BMS. There are
yeah?
ways around it, definitely. Yep. It's
Well,
doable.
somebody asked me about the Pro, um,
Yep. So
and
yeah, it's rumored they'll release a pro version, as they typically do. That they'll have the entry level and then double the batteries, and it's the pro.
yeah, of course, and I'll be
Yep.
pissed, but
Yep.
whatever. So
That's a good
Devo said, "Yeah, Black Cobra, the Commander GT Pro 4400 watt. Yeah, bruh, 168-volt, fast and huge range. Yeah, and no doubt, I want it. I'm sure. I was already thinking between the two wheels, and um, but I rode this out at Hyperfest, and the opportunity was there, so this is what I got. So, um, and I don't know when I'm gonna get to see or get my hands on that Commander GT Pro because I love the Commander Pro. I mean, I
Oh
that's a
yeah,
great
they're very
wheel.
different.
Yeah,
Definitely
the
different experiences.
oh yeah, the range on
I
it though,
had
I really love, and I
the
enjoy.
Commander Pro. I'm definitely a fan of. I've also tried the GT Pro, and Primo was asking my thoughts on that. It felt to have very weak braking, so the power was good in the way you would expect from that kind of a wheel. But myself and other riders that tried it at the Intro to Speed event in New York recently noticed that it has very weak braking, and you can be hanging all the way over the back, and it's still not slowing down,
On which
particularly at
one?
lower speeds on the Commander GT Pro, that
Oh,
the demo
okay.
wheel that Ronan has.
Okay.
So yeah, shout out to Ronan. He's demoing that wheel, working on a video to let people know his thoughts on it. I think it'll be a great wheel, and that can be tweaked via firmware. But it has that wide tire, so it'll have that gyro effect that not everyone is a fan of. And yeah, the weak braking compared to the ET Max has far better braking. They have comparable power, but the ET Max has much better braking than the GT
Yeah,
Pro.
I did notice that I felt comfortable braking on the ET Max,
Yep,
even at
they're
high
really
speeds. When
predictable.
you're
Mm-hmm.
you're doing 50 miles an hour and you
Yep.
have to brake, you want to be comfortable braking.
That's not not have to throw yourself so far back that
Yeah.
you put yourself in a wobble and create a different situation.
Yes. So Primo asked, "What does Declan think of the GT
Oh,
Pro Plus from Extreme Bull?
the plus,
The
it would be
Plus."
an extra battery version, but if they again, they would need to address that firmware by making the braking a bit stronger,
Right.
particularly at low speeds.
Right. So think about this, Primo. If he's already talking about the fact that the GT Pro plus, I mean the GT Pro
The small
has,
one doesn't stop well. The big
the
one,
big one is going to be even harder to
mhm,
stop.
that's right.
So
That's right.
they're going to have to address that issue. And braking is another software thing. So
Absolutely.
it's trying to tweak and tune. And now that we're on that, I'm worried. And let me ask you, because you may have experienced this. Now,
Sure.
um, Turbo was talking to me about firmware, and he updated the firmware on his ET Max, and he said not the latest update, but the one before
Right.
that, I guess he said. And he
Yeah.
sent me which one it is. I have not updated it because I first of all I don't have an Android phone. Nobody that's in my circle out here has an Android phone. We're all Apple. So he was saying that sometimes when you update with an Apple phone, it doesn't take and it doesn't stay, or there's an
Right.
issue with
Yeah.
it, so you need to use an
Mhm.
Android. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have one, so I guess I'm on the original firmware. And so, but do you know, in talking
Yep.
to people and dealing with it, if the firmware he's talking about is better, and if it is, in terms of how?
Let's see. The This one here has the latest firmware, and Peter mentioned that it does handle pretty well. When I wrote it, it does go pretty well as well. I haven't had a chance to really compare the different firmwares side by side since it is fairly new. Um, but I will say that a lesson I learned the hard way is if your wheel's working, a firmware update can change that for a permanent situation.
That's why I'm afraid.
That's what I always go back to. If you can ride it, you have to decide how much you value that. And sometimes the answer is that it really is that bad. And it's funny, I had that situation recently with the Master. So we're getting into this talk of firmware. I'll bring this wheel out, but as we're talking about it, it's another wheel that I've been working on, and I updated the firmware, completely transformed the experience. So allow
Go
me a
for it.
minute.
Go for it. While he's grabbing that wheel, in the comments here, Fresh Bones, you said, didn't someone just do a lift test with the GT Pro and it didn't stop? Yeah, that was, and they said that there was a firmware update that fixed that problem right away, because it happened to some people right out the box. And I watched that video, and that was scary. If I did a lift test and my wheel did not stop, I'd be really, really scared. Um, uh, Declan, the table is still not close enough. So if you want to pull it closer to you or move over
Sure.
that way, either way, because the only way I can see both is if I drop myself out of the screen, and then I see
Oh, a little
both
bit
of you.
like
That's
that.
better. A little bit more. If you can, you move closer to it, just so, because we can't. You know what? And I'm gonna drop out for a minute anyway. Let you talk about the wheel and stuff, and then I'll come back in. But when we're both in the
Sure.
frame, we can't see all of it. So, so
I
tell
see.
tell us about your wild invention that you got going on right there.
Sure. So this master was a lesson in firmware updates and the value of making sure that your machine's running properly. Because I myself at Oak City Shredfest, along with another rider, Coffee runs. Shout out to Coffee from Boston. Encountered an issue with the pedal angles where we would come off of a jump and the pedals would tilt so far down that it would completely throw off your balance and make the wheel unrideable. And so this is something you would only experience as a rider, something that you have to get out into the real world to observe. But then it was causing similar behavior on other wheels I had running the same firmware. And the end result was that we needed to change the firmware, and that fixed the issue. So this is one example, but then I applied that firmware update to several other wheels to fix other issues I was also having. So it's really just a lesson in testing your equipment and keeping up to date with the latest software and firmware.
Okay,
So
so
this
that
master, yeah, go ahead.
but that means that the firmware update that you did, but to be
Yeah,
clear, you did not do that, excuse me, until there was an issue. You didn't
exactly. That
you
was
didn't
the crux of the
yeah.
point. It reached a situation where I myself had to ask, how bad is it? And the term I came up with was borderline unrideable, because it was tilting
Yes.
in such a way that I could not operate the machine properly, and so I would rather I would risk not riding to improve that bad behavior, and it worked, and so it was worth it. But that's really the point you should be at when you're considering a firmware update, is that there's no alternative. Is really that what you should say.
Right. And right now, that's the problem I have is I'm not having an issue riding. The ET Max is rideable. I'm having a good time riding it. So I'm not seeing that grabbing a new
Yep.
firmware update is
Hmm.
necessary for me yet. I'm like,
That's right.
maybe I'm gonna wait.
And I actually
Um,
spoke to someone recently who Soch, no, not Soch, so, someone in New York who was having an issue with their ET Max, and exactly as we're talking about, he bricked it in a firmware update, and he's waiting
oh,
for. So
wait, he bricked
it's
it and he's waiting. He's waiting for a new board.
that's right.
Oh,
Yep.
see,
There is a
that's
reset you can do with you where you unplug it and you go through multiple apps to flash a new firmware onto it. But if you don't have two phones or you're not familiar with that process, then the only alternative is to replace it.
oh my god. See,
So
that's the
it is
scary
what it
part.
is.
That's the scary part. Yeah. See, now that I have us both on screen, though, you're half cut off, Declan. I can only see half your face. There you
Oh,
go. There you go.
come back into
Um,
the lower frame.
yeah. So that's the issue that I have. I'm faced with, and I guess even though Turbo sent me the right firmware to get so that I can have the
Yeah,
same one he has,
right.
I feel like if I do that, now the
It's a
only problem
gamble.
I do have is I don't like, and it's a lot of the gold wheels do this when you go into a turn,
Right.
they
They
start to
dip down.
shift. Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't like that. Like if I go
Yep.
into a turn, I don't want the pedal moving,
Right.
and
Right. I agree.
so I
I've just
ride in
gotten used to
hard
it.
mode to try and
Yep.
alleviate some of that, but I still get it, and I haven't because I've been riding the Commander Pro and the Sherman
Right.
S. I haven't, and I haven't ridden my Master that I'm still selling. I haven't ridden
Yep.
that much,
There
so
is a
getting
tuning for that behavior, and they have introduced that recently in the app. There's a pedal angle adjustment setting that on a 1 to 9 scale, and so you can slide it down. Folks typically run 2 to 4, so the lower range, and you could try messing with that. It should be enabled on the ET, but the master may be older prior to that feature. You have an
right.
earlier version, a V1
I do.
master, so I'm
Yep.
not sure if they had it at that time, but with the ET, I would recommend that. Happy to send you a screenshot if you'd like with where that is.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you said that's in the Begode app, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
Darkness Mod does not have it, but the Begode app is available on iPhone.
yeah, yeah, I have both of them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see, what do we got? Planet Iceland. He got tired of waiting for the King Song to make a long range wheel, so he bought a Commander. The Commander Pro is still a great wheel. So I don't know if you bought a Commander or a Commander Pro, but I love the Commander Pro still. So let's see where I was trying to get to. Oh, Stan asks, do you recommend purchasing the first iteration of a new entry? If
Yep.
not, what version would be recommended for the most solid ride?
So it's a great question. It's another existential philosophical kind of question, and
Yep.
I'll go back. I'll say I bought the OG Sherman, the very, very first one of the very first ones that came out, number 22 on the board, and it's still kicking. If you want an anecdote of a positive experience, that's mine. It went great. I love that wheel. Ride it every day still. But
Yeah.
at the same time, since then there's so many great wheels out and so many great used wheels that are available as well. It's tough to justify purchasing a brand new model of EUC that's unlike any predecessor. And to that point, if that's your only wheel, or maybe it's your main form of transportation, you're more likely to have an issue. You're more likely to have trouble running into parts being available, and so those are things you have to consider. It's a compromise and a trade-off. That if you buy a wheel that's been out, there are parts for it. If you buy something that is just released, it may have issues that cannot get resolved in a short time. And I did run through that with my Sherman. I bought it so early that they were still on the narrower version of the rim, and it did not fit the tire that I wanted to use, the Conti Scoot tire. Shout out to Tarzan, NY Tarzan, for making me aware of that great tire. So I wound up waiting 6 months just so I could use the tire that I wanted to. And it was totally worth it for me because I love UCs and I want the best one you can get. And that was the only version of a wheel like that with a street tire at that time. So it was worth it for me, but it's really a personal preference.
Right. Okay.
Great question.
One more time, you might want to turn the camera towards you. So
Sure, yeah.
you're still like half in, half out. Okay, so Devo, he said, I always have my butt clenched when I do my firmware upgrades.
That's a great point.
Because you
That's
never know. You
That's right.
never know. Like
Yep.
you do an upgrade and you're like, is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? Is it gonna work? You know, and if it works, you're like, yeah. And if it doesn't, then hey.
That's right. I had some fun rides with that one. Toss it in the bin.
So Wheelie Brady, Wheelie Brady said he soft mode only for him. Oh,
yep.
Wheelie,
I get that. I understand it.
You ride soft mode, Declan?
Soft mode, I personally don't. I find that I prefer to have a predictable linear feeling on the pedals where it's consistent and remains flat overall with minimal movement. That allows me to fully feel the road and all the surface conditions much more sensitively and adjust the turns.
That's how I am too. I like solid under my feet, and soft mode gives me way too much movement. I feel like I'm on a roller coaster even when I'm just doing simple movements. I'm like, oh no. And my heart drops every time the wheel does this. It does all this shit. I'm like, no. I'm like, who changed this to soft mode? I get really upset. I'm like, I cannot do soft mode. That's why the ET Max in the corners when I'm turning, even seated, I was seated and I turned in a seated position and it actually tipped back. I was like, oh, come on, man. What you doing? I didn't like it at all. I'm like, okay. So I'm hoping I could change that. So Grills said, I do get the dip on the street, but no problems jumping or trail riding. Which wheel are we talking about? Oh, he's on the Master, I think.
The Master with the firmware. So yeah, it's something I encountered on rolling hills as well. That when I would go down a steep hill, the pedals would tilt far forwards, going down the hill, almost to the point of wanting to throw you off. But different. You may be running an earlier version of the firmware that was less severe. I don't recall the problematic version, but 2.4 is the good one that I'm using for the Master.
Oh, okay.
And you'll see that in the app if you go to it.
So 2.4, if you guys, if you're interested, he said is working good for him. James said early Masters do not have pedal level option. Yeah, I figured that, and mine's is version 1. Even though mine has the Molicel packs in it, so it's fast and
that's great. Yep.
I'll be honest. When you step on it, it's like I still feel like it's a Ferrari. Like it still has that crazy acceleration that they have in the Master. They did such a good job with that. It really did. And again, if you haven't seen it, I'm selling mine with all the extras for 1,500. Um, I still haven't sold it, and it's painful because I don't want to sell, but I kind of have to. I'm like, you got to pay for your habit,
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it
and
come from somewhere.
yeah, ET Max is here, so I got to pay for my
Yep.
habit. I'm like,
Yep.
yeah.
That's how it is.
Yep.
That's really how it is. Yep.
So let me see. Grill said, "Never that for me. Version 3 stock." Oh, he's all stock. Okay, you go for that. I don't know.
So
Go ahead.
I saw James was asking about Nico's crash at
Yeah.
AVS. So I'm happy to run all the way through that because it's an interesting situation, and he talked about it after the fact. But it's always hard to catch all the details. So he explained that he overpowered the wheel and it dipped back, but the situation was that he wasn't able to recover his balance, and so he wobbled out because you're leaning forwards. That abrupt adjustment is difficult to recover if you're not expecting it, and so that's what happened. He fell, and in those
Ah,
situations, it's a matter of balance and technique that also comes into play when you're pushing the limits of the wheel. Again, he was on the straightaway, the longest stretch. He was running 50 e-packs. His wheel, unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to tinker with as much as I love to. I really just installed a regular GodMod of a large size, so he had a very strong safety buffer, but he didn't have any of the upgrades that I do for the motor, for the board, for the charge board delete, which I can get into. But he had just the almost the barest minimum to race with, rather than the full system upgrade that I would have hoped to install. But
okay.
it is what it is, and he popped up as he always does from that high speed crash, standing both hands in the air like a champion. I mean, he looked like the man coming off the ground. It didn't even he ran out the way so fast like a train was coming, because it really was.
Yeah.
A train of riders was flying right by, and nobody even came close. It was very. I
Yeah, he
love
did a
that
good
about our
job.
race culture. Nobody's
Yeah.
willing to compromise the safety of another racer
Yep.
to gain a competitive advantage, and so in that situation, myself included, I saw Nico. He's in one place, his wheels in another place. I don't want to hit either of those, and I'll do what I need to, and everyone else did the same.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a great community, so um
Absolutely.
and so he had a god mod. The god mod
That's
can
right.
absorb and give him the extra, but when he dipped, he did it was the recovery from the dip that snapped
Yep.
back so fast that he wasn't prepared to handle it.
Yep.
That's what I'm
So it
getting.
kicked into, yeah. He kind of fell off in a lack of balance, is what he explained.
Okay. And Wheelie Brady riding in soft mode sets that Wheelie Brady, it sounds like a personal problem. we're
Riding
sorry.
modes are
We're
it's
sorry
my
about your soft mode there, Willie
that's
Brady.
right. That's right. I hope you get better.
There are pills for that. No.
And I feel the same way about side pads. So frequently people will remark that I don't have pads on my wheels. I didn't have pads on my wheel that I raced at AVS. I'll show that soon. And
Crazy.
it's the same level of controversy for folks, that some people that I ride with are exactly the same. They love the flat, open, free floating experience of riding without pads, and others can't even ride the wheels that I make if they don't have pads installed. So
I can't.
it's a
I can't ride
large.
a wheel. I can't ride a wheel without pads.
Yep,
That's
I totally
another.
get it. Totally makes
Yes.
sense.
Another reason why when you were riding the ET Max and dropped it, I was like, see, he's a nut because there was no pads on it. I was like, he ain't
No,
got
no,
nothing.
it turned off on me. It was
Sure,
working as intended.
sure. It wasn't the pads. Sure, no.
I love,
So
I love it.
Planet Iceland said, I don't even know what soft mode feels like. I only ride in hard mode since I started in 2019. I'm with you, bro. I do the same thing, all hard mode always, but I know what soft mode is because people have put it in soft mode, and I'm like, what the hell is this wheel doing? And I instantly get off of it, and I'm like, nope, nope,
Yep.
nope.
And it's funny, even the different modes have different feelings across different models, even within the same brand. And so some wheels, my version of the Sherman, the medium mode, is actually firmer than the hard mode on that wheel, because it was just not programmed to be that way. So I run medium mode on the Sherman, and that's the
Mm.
stiffest setting. So it's really
Ah,
about trying different things out, finding what works for you, not being so hung up on the terminology or the numbers, and just uh, more paying more, closer attention to the holistic riding experience and the sensations you get, the way it handles the amount of difficulty you have managing the machine is really what matters most. It should be intuitive to operate. As long as that is the case, it's all a preference.
Okay. So, oh, Seth said Declan GTA'd the Max to use in the race at Hyperfest. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is he dropped it. All I know. So Wheelie Brady said, ride hard in soft mode with no fear. It's amazing. Soft mode just feels scary, but works great. Yeah, yeah. You go ahead and tell yourself that. I'm all set. Wheelie, he said, riding soft mode is like riding a two-stroke bike, dirt bike. Yeah, okay. Too much movement, buddy. Too much movement. But you know what? We enjoy watching you do it, Willie Brady. You keep it up there, buddy. I'll let you do all that for us, and I'll applaud you from the sideline. Okay, Declan. So you had a
Yep.
list of wheels over there to go
Yep, a
through,
whole
but
bunch of other ones. Yep. So
before you get to that, I want you to tell us about the e wheels competition,
sure.
what it entailed,
Yep.
and then you can tell us and show us what you rode in this competition, because I wasn't familiar with it, and I know, excuse me, I'm not the only one. So let me
Well, let
know.
me. I'll
Go
bring it
ahead.
over and I'll get started about this e-wheels challenge.
Yeah, the e-wheels challenge was something that was issued by e-wheels in the forums, and I had no idea about it. I saw a couple of videos with and a couple of photos with these crazy wheels, and I was like, what is this about? But I never got the details until I got a call from Declan, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna open it up and
We've
give you
been.
the floor.
Thank you. Yep. So
Go ahead.
I'm showing the wheel in the frame, and I'll just leave it visible
Yep.
for a little while. If hopefully you can see it.
Yeah, they could see everything. It's just you on screen,
Perfect.
so go ahead.
Yep. So this is the wheel that I designed for the eWheels challenge, and the rules of the challenge were that you are to ride as far as possible within 16 hours without changing your batteries or utilizing any support vehicle. So what that means is that you need to maximize your speed and minimize your charge time. And the best way to do that is to slap as many batteries together as possible on a machine that can ride at very high speeds. And so folks were considering riding a more efficient device at a lower voltage like the 18XL, Kingsong 18XL, which did get tremendous range for what it is. However, to hit the speeds that you're looking for, it's not going to stand up. So I designed this version of the master that utilizes all of the electronic upgrades that I've designed to make it more powerful on the street and in the trails. So I can get into that a little bit, but
Go ahead.
first I'll
Whatever you want.
we had to yeah I'll go through all the details about it. So we slapped together 4.5 masters worth of batteries, and the way to do that, we did that, is by designing a custom wiring harness similar to this one, and I'll get into that later. But we designed a wiring harness where we have all the connectors that plug in from the batteries together and in series and parallel, and that allows me to make a larger pack that's combined from smaller packs. Um, and the performance of the wheel was excellent. So because all of the components were evenly spaced out, it was a very balanced machine, and it handled similar to a Master Pro, where you have a bit of sluggish turning from the weight, but the overall behavior was predictable and linear. And I was able to ride it on the road the way I would ride any other wheel with very little friction. The power was akin to any other high performance EUC that you might find, if not greater, because the parallel batteries reduce the amount of sag. So when you have all these batteries working together, they're supporting each other, holding hands, pushing you, and none of them are struggling. because the load is distributed. So this
Uh-huh.
wheel was running like a clock. I mean, all the way down to low battery, I was getting very strong acceleration. I was hitting relatively high speeds, nothing too crazy because I wanted to not get hurt on this challenge, but it was very easy to pass cars, very maneuverable. I was lane splitting like I always do, and I actually was able to adjust to the wider stance that it required to ride. Because it's a double wide, there are two packs lined up side by side. I had to hold my legs wider. Typically, I'll have my legs close. I had to hold them very wide, and I'm used to that by now. I have other wheels that are like that. But the so just to throw out some fun numbers, I rode almost 350 miles in just under 16 hours. I was on the wheel for about 12 and a half hours. I was averaging 30 miles per hour. My strategy was to ride in places I was very comfortable and familiar with. So I chose trails and street routes that I knew the terrain and the traffic movements in such a way that I was confident in the risks that I would need to take. And so in certain areas, I would come to a full stop and wait for traffic. And in other areas, I knew how to navigate the conditions and not have to slow down. So that was very important because over a long ride, you get fatigued and you don't have the same agility that you're used to. And so you need to be able to look where you're going and predict the obstacles and not have to make last second adjustments. So I found this amazing trail and just rode that trail over and over again as many times as I could tolerate. And it was just so much fun. The challenge really pushed me to go out and ride a lot, as much as I could, and ride to new places, but not too exotic, and keep it to areas that I could still be in control of what's happening and not get lost, but still find something new. And so I did. I found this new trail that I had never been to, and it's now my favorite place to ride because it's just
Nice.
smooth, pretty open. You're in control of the hazards. And so that was my strategy, is just go to my favorite trail and ride it as many times as possible. And
Well,
it worked pretty
let me ask you this.
well. Yep.
Why did you choose the Master and not the the larger Monster Pro?
That's a great question. So, with a larger diameter tire, you can potentially have losses due to more inertia, and that would be a limiting factor in the overall efficiency. So, I have done a lot of experimentation with the C38 motor on the 14-inch rim, 20-inch wheel. So many numbers, but this is the platform that I have been researching and developing with for the last 2.5 2 years that it's been out. And so we've rewired the motor, we've rewired the board, we've been working with these batteries. So all these factors together combined into this platform are working the same as in my other wheels. So it's really about taking our tested, proven research and project work and putting it to use in a new kind of way, just with extra batteries. But this is a race wheel with extra range. It's nothing. It's not stock in any sense, but that's to say that for this kind of a challenge, I didn't want to be testing too many things. We already had this frame that we had to build on our own, and so I really only wanted that to be the only variable that we were not familiar with. So I took a pre-existing motor we had already been using in another wheel, and the boards, we had been working with that version of the board already, so we knew how to change the wires and connectors. And so yeah, that's really the point. We had tested this platform, we had the parts. This was the best way to do it, and
Okay.
they really worked great. I didn't even find the limits. I rode it 130 miles, and it still had 20% left, and those miles were full, proper, fast miles. Nothing to scoff at. Average of 30 miles an hour. Pushing, accelerating. The braking was excellent. And that's something else I wanted to get into, that with this challenge, I only got the wheel fully and properly tuned by my third run, my last one, where I updated to race mode and changed that firmware that we were talking about. So
Right.
previously, I had been just dealing with very abnormal behavior on the hills where the pedals would come down when you're going
Yeah.
downhill. It made no sense, but I was just dealing with it. And so by the last ride, I had learned about the new firmware, updated to that one, and also put it in race mode, which unlocked the acceleration and braking that was previously in off-road mode. So those upgrades were working hand in hand with all the electronics upgrades that I had already installed, and it was great to feel the side by side for myself and realize how once everything's working together, the two work hand in hand. That if your firmware settings are too high, you still won't get the right performance. You'll get more sag. But if you have all these batteries and capacitors and a smooth wiring system to augment it, then you'll get great performance. I was getting way more range even with the settings tuned up in race mode because I speculate it was just doing what it needed to do in exactly the right way. Uh,
Okay, so you said you learned about these things while you're riding. Were you watching videos while you were riding?
Guilty as charged. You got to find some ways to stimulate yourself on the long rides. But I will say it's you pull over and you reflect on what you're feeling, and then you learn that way. It's not always while you're moving, but it's really from meeting other people and talking to them that you learn from their experiences, and everybody grows together. So the firmware update I had learned about from Scott in North Carolina. Shout out to Scott, Float and Carve. He had talked about his master having this problem, and so he recommended the upgrade and update, and I did that for myself. He was spot on.
Okay. So I put this up. I just want to shout it out. James, he said, shout out to Gorilla Tape.
That's right. That's right. So
There's more tape on that wheel.
They're powered
I'll
by
be
Gorilla
honest.
Tape.
That looks like an Archie wheel right there.
Yep. Yeah, he has a very similar style. Archie has been a long time EUC customizer, adding extra batteries to his wheels. So shout out to Archie for his expertise on that subject. I had been talking to him about some of this work that I had done a while ago, and he's very knowledgeable. I will say with the tape, that Gorilla Tape is definitely the best option if you're looking for strength and durability. And in a competition, it's a goal of going fast. It's not a beauty contest.
Well, you says to how many wheels does Declan have? 1 million.
So that's a great question also, because you have to specify whether you are accounting for whole and complete rideable wheels or wheels worth of parts. I have dozens of tires, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you got a lot going on. So in regards to this challenge, so you entered the challenge. You said it was a little bit to get accepted to the challenge because it wasn't straightforward. There were some things that you had to say and set up and make sure were right in order for them to give you the access to the challenge. So what was the outcome?
So unfortunately, I had so many issues logging the ride that I wasn't able to submit a submission that was adherent to the standards set forth by the competition. And that's not it's a learning experience overall, is that your equipment is extremely important and your peripherals are also important. And so for me, I was focused on ride. But the problem is that if you're not on top of your tracking mechanisms, then you run the risk of doing a ride that's not tracked. And so I recorded all those 350 miles on a GPS app and log each ride separately. But at the time, I didn't have an Android phone for EUC World, which is a requirement. And then for my final ride, where I did have EUC World on a designated Android phone, it crashed in the middle of the ride and it lost the majority of
Androids.
Large portion of the models. So I guess I was running an old glitchy phone or whatever the case is, but I had so much fun on the ride. I optimized for that particular factor, is to have as much fun as possible, and that's exactly what I did. But that was the end result, is that I didn't have a valid submission because EUC World didn't capture it, and it is what it is.
Okay.
I have a GPS log of all the miles and the timing.
So you did 350, you said?
349 and 3/4. But I cut it off at the 16-hour mark. So.
we're gonna round it up. 350
That's right. That's,
miles.
I say a quarter mile. You can see it.
Ah, he could blow on that last quarter.
That's right. That's
he,
right. You feel the
he
wind
was
from here.
he was there. He was there.
That's right.
Well, that's good, man. I give you credit for riding that crazy amount. That's a lot.
And I'll tell
Um,
you the word that I would use. I was thinking about it the whole time. One word to describe the whole experience: gluttonous. This was an endeavor akin to an all-you-can-eat buffet of all of your favorite foods, and you can pick the foods that you want to eat at this all-you-can-eat buffet. But you have to eat so much that you're just left feeling ill and just debating, reconsidering all your life choices, but you power through because it's your favorite food. It's really the best analogy I could think of because, like I said, I optimized for fun. So at first, I had been riding on routes trying to go faster, but I realized that if you're riding with no shoulder, cars will pass you in an unsafe manner, and it's better to just optimize for consistency. Uh, Shout out to Ethan King, who gave me that terminology. Ethan from North Carolina mentioned that consistency is what makes a great racer, not top speed. Because even if you have your good days, your bad days can set you out of a long time, set you out for everything. So
yeah.
I focused on a consistent, fun, enjoyable route, and went with that manner, of
Okay.
course.
That's good, man. Well, congratulations on that. That was,
Thank you.
crazy, crazy wild ride, and I'm
It
sure that
was so
all of
much
us
fun.
would
Too
love to
much
have
fun.
done.
There is such a thing as too much fun. I checked for us all, found out, yes.
Yeah,
I think 8 hours
he,
of riding in a day, you should be able to get it all in by that point.
he found out too much is a thing. Okay,
That's right. That's
so
right.
now I want to on another note, I want to share some things that you gave to me here. Um, in the
I'll
background, I
go
don't know if you have
park
your
this
yeah. Go ahead and
piece.
park that.
Yeah, yeah.
So in the I'm sharing here, people, one of Declan's creations. I'm not gonna lie, Declan. What I'm looking at looks like a bomb or a.
I'll bring it out. I know the one you're talking about.
It looks like it looks like the vest bomb of a Unabomber or of a suicide bomber. That's what it looks like. You have strapped the suicide bomber vest to a wheel.
That is
That's what it
that is
looks
the
like.
wooden EC that I raced at AVS, Apple Valley Speedway in California this past November. Here it is in the flesh.
Well,
So
so
it's
you're
powered on.
you got the other side then, right? Because I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at on the screen. I have
Oh,
white
I'm sorry.
tubes.
Let me see
White.
what you're looking at. I didn't check.
Yeah, I'm seeing white tubes.
Yep. That's the same one. So I
Okay.
tossed a tarp over it for exactly the reason you were describing, which is that the exposed wires is something I am comfortable with, but other folks don't like to see the wires. So we
No.
got this guy here wrapped up in some vinyl material that I have for a motorcycle seat, and so it's very comfortable stuff, very grippy, and this wheel is fully customized from the ground up. This is really the first iteration of a fully customized machine from the ground level. So
Okay.
I will be happy to tell you all about it.
Yeah, go
that,
for it
that,
because I'm looking at it going fully customized. What in the world is that thing?
okay. So I'll start with the most noticeable part of it, which is the wooden frame. It's made out of sapele, which is similar to mahogany, and it's a very stiff, durable wood that holds up well. It's a very rigid material, and it holds its shape for the frame. The pieces are connected in a horseshoe kind of shape, so it mounts directly to the pedal hanger. The board itself mounts to the pedal hanger, but the frame itself is entirely wood with some metal brackets and screws. And
Aha.
folks have asked me why. They'd say you should make it out of metal. They've said all different kinds of things, but I'll tell you, they make planes, boats, houses, docks out of wood. There's many things in our world that are made of wood, and this one is one of them. And it's been great. Um,
Okay. Well put. Well put.
so
Okay.
on the
So I see
inside,
the
the
wood
guts.
is the bottom. So what's
That's
next?
right. So that's the frame. I'm rocking the Atom G pedals that have the spikes built in. They're all aluminum, very durable as well. Big fan of those kinds of pedals. The motor itself has our wires upgrade that I've done to other wheels and tested thoroughly, and so we've upgraded to very thick kind of wiring, and it works great with this wheel.
What
So
motor is
that's
it
the motor.
again? From
It's
which wheel?
based on the C38, but then we've rewired it from the inside out. So
Okay.
it's fundamentally different. We call it the Ghost motor, Ghost Master. So
Okay.
this would be a Ghost wheel, and I've done that for a few folks, and it's been running consistently now for over a couple a year and a half. I would say was the first one that we did. Still out on the road. Rode with RT recently from Toronto. Shout out to RT and Carrie. So the two of them had been riding on the earliest version of the rewired motor, and still to this day, it's kicking strong. So
Okay.
that's what I've got.
Okay. What else?
Inside the plastic tubing, we've got custom batteries that I built myself, Mollicell P42 batteries. So the original Master had four batteries in parallel, and so I ran it down to 3 in parallel for this wheel to minimize the weight. But the Mollicell batteries have a much higher discharge. They give you a lot of power. So even though the battery is smaller, it's actually stronger overall in this particular wheel relative
Uh-huh.
to the stock Master. So
Okay.
those are the batteries, and they're each in an individual PVC tube, which the wires come out from, some of them on both sides, some from one side. And I have big wires and small wires. The small wires come together on the Smart BMS, which is right here on the back, and that controls all the charging for the wheel. Make sure that all the cells are balanced. You can
Okay,
change
hold on. Pause
that.
for a second, because when you
Sure.
say wires and tubing, I got to go back to that shared image. People,
Yep. Pull it up.
this is what
Let's
he's
zoom in
talking
on it.
about.
There's
I'm
no.
zooming in. You can see that
And I'll
this
tell
is
you,
what.
I have dropped this wheel. It survives. It's not folks are afraid of their wires, but I'll tell you, every wheel has wires in it, and that's what they look like. So
Tell me that this does not look like a bomber's vest, and it's crazy that that's underneath there. But okay,
So
okay.
and those batteries are all in series. So some folks would shudder at that kind of a thought, because if any individual pack gets disconnected, the wheel will cut off. However, we've designed it in such a way where it's robustly wired and all the connections are strong. So I'm not concerned. I'm willing to race it, willing to crash it, and race it again. Uh, and that's just it's a fun topic. It's like anything in any community. There's controversy to any design choice. So I'm just pointing that out. They're all series packs.
Well, okay, so just Grills, you said the mad scientist. Now you see why I call him the mad scientist or the mad engineer. Okay,
Yep,
it's not just me. Okay, so and you said wait one more time. You said those were Mollicell packs.
that's right.
Yes,
P42. Mm-hmm.
P42A. Okay,
Yep, that's right.
okay. So just real quick, electric unicycle. He said wooden frame. What? He said, damn. What else? Pool noodle for the tire. He said, just playing, just playing. Go
You know
ahead,
what?
go ahead.
I'm open to any advantage that you can find, but with this
You gonna run a
tire,
pool noodle?
you get me a good one.
I can see you running the wheel on the water on a pool noodle.
Yep. I'd go for it.
Okay, so
Yep. And
P42A batteries in those individual tubes, the
that's right.
robust wiring. Okay,
And
what else?
the shape of the battery is actually a cone kind of a shape. So I took an inspiration from a flashlight. I don't have it handy, but the to fit the batteries in the round cylinder, you need to slide them in. Typically, they're a rectangle, so I went for a triangle. And it's just a fun
Ah,
fact. I looked at my
okay.
flashlight. I saw the shape like in a triangle, and so I was inspired to apply that to an EUC. Uh,
Alrighty then.
Yep. So the rounding it out, I used a copper box for the motherboard as a heatsink and rewired the board itself. So I changed out the main power wires to make them thicker and more conductive. And as well, I put a GodMod on the top of the wheel, a capacitor pack wired directly into the motherboard. So by being so close, I've minimized the wiring and enhanced the efficiency of this pack. So this wheel makes so much power. I have thoroughly tested it. So when I was at AVS and I pushed this wheel on the straightaway, I was keeping ahead of EX30s and all the other custom machines that were there. I was not in front of everybody, but I was hanging with the rest of them. I felt the wheel at its limits, but it was so powerful that even as I exceeded the limits of the motor, it was so responsive and coming back up that I had no issues leaning into it the entire straightaway. And that's really what it's
Wow.
all about. People talk heavily on the numbers of the wheel, of what, how many, how fast does the tire rotate when you spin it, but that does not tell you how fast it can go with a rider on it. And so,
Right.
where this machine, with the upgrades that I've designed, it can carry you as fast as you can push it, and that's really all I'm about in a race.
As fast as you can push it. How fast did you get it up to, you think?
High 40s is what I got on the app with the adjusted speed, so 48 and change, somewhere around there. Nothing crazy, but I ran out of room. Truthfully, it's not a long straightaway. So
So James is asking, you raced that at AVS, but you
that's
said
correct.
yes.
Yep. With
Yeah.
no pads whatsoever. I have some vinyl on here that I used as grip, but no pads.
Crazy.
The biggest challenge and the lesson that I learned was in ergonomics, that this wheel was a bit too wide. So, like I was talking about, I had this bow-legged stance, and it was very tiring to ride a wheel that way for a long time. If I were able to hold my wheels narrower the way I'm used to and more comfortable, I would be much more, I'm much less fatigued and able to control it better. I was feeling the wear on my legs by the end of the race. I was having trouble keeping it in a straight line, and you could. I was looking at the wall at one point, like, oh, it's hope I'm gonna make this one.
Yeah. Well. First of all, Willie Brady said no pads, no race mode. Or
Yep, no race mode at the time.
At AVS, crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. And then Seth
this
said,
year I'm coming with something better. Definitely, this was a huge learning experience and inspiration for a new project.
Well, Seth said you're definitely not winning any beauty contests with that.
Can't win if you don't participate.
Oh my god. So Willie Brady was running the same wheel, just different looking?
That's right, exactly. Yes, he had a different configuration of the same components, and so
oh my god,
he had the same conclusion that his was also wider than a traditional master, and the two of us riding bow-legged were both feeling the same fatigue, talking to each other that we can't ride the donkey. You gotta get back on something skinny like skates.
He said the masters work great now in race mode with all the upgrades.
Yes.
Okay.
That's right. So traditionally in race mode, if you have a master with 50E batteries, it will sag severely, even more so in race mode, because you're really squeezing out more out of it. But with these upgrades, the system is working so efficiently that it's able to give you stable power.
Okay. We're both on screen. Can you tilt your camera towards you again? So, yeah,
sure.
There you go. So yeah, it is incredible that you're able to do all this. And my question to you is, when are you just gonna build build your own wheel? And when I say build, I don't mean cobble together parts. I mean build something that looks like something somebody would want to ride. Like that's what you need to. I mean, you have. It feels to me like you've mastered the idea of the wheels, but there's no way in hell that Cobra is gonna ride anything that looks like that. So my point is, you got to figure out how to design. And I know I have a feeling that what you need is a design team to help you, because you can't design a good-looking wheel. You can design a a good working wheel, but I don't think that you have it in you. You or Panda have it in you to build a good looking wheel. Because your upgrades are amazing.
It's funny you mentioned, and it really comes down to it's a trade-off of how far into the customization you want to go, and then how much time and energy you want to spend on the aesthetics as well. And I have made wheels fully customized that do look very traditional, and so it's really just a matter of priority. And so for me, I'm racing, trying to go as fast as I can around a course, and the wheel may not make it. And so if I spend all this time making it look nice, it's only that much more upsetting when it get scratched
Right.
up or banged
And
up.
you're back to the drawing
But
board.
in terms of the yeah, yeah, exactly. And so my priority right now is building different wheels for different purposes that I don't feel I've fully mastered the recipe. I've only iterated on it and figured out different elements of what it takes to make a great electric unicycle. And so there are many people in this space doing many great things in the same kind of a way, iterating. But when you're talking about, am I at the point of having a fully fledged product, a fully custom EUC that I could promote to other people and make it available? Even if I were at that point, the availability would be so limited. So
Yeah.
I'm still researching, still perfecting the recipe. I'll let you know if I get it figured out, but it's everything is closer to something better, but there is no best, not yet.
So,
And it's people have asked me today, hey, how's that wheel going? It's a work in progress. It always is.
so Seth asks, have you played with the Vesks on the one wheels, the Vesk system they have on there, the upgrades that they have? Have you played with any of those?
So I've ridden a one wheel with Vesk installed, and I definitely can feel the difference and the benefits that it offers. But it's not something I've experimented with heavily on my own. I've found that Begode has a strong knack for writing their firmwares, and so I've been leaning heavily on that and focusing entirely on the hardware, which is where I find most EUC manufacturers are willing to skimp out. So I do give massive props to Austin and Mitch, who have made tremendous strides in the Vesk EUC and one wheel space by making it accessible for everyone and an option that people can consider. But right now, the voltage is the limiting factor. Vesk is mainly limited to 100 volts. There's some options that go above that. They're less tested and more expensive. And in terms of a firmware point of view, it's not currently more powerful, more functional. It's just more tunable and adjustable. And you can get it to a point of higher functionality, but you have to then, after you get it working, get it to a point where it's better than it was before. And so I just haven't dedicated that effort because myself, I'm not really a coder. The firmware that powers these devices, I mean, it looks like the Matrix. It's heavily into the numbers. You have to be very comfortable with coding. It was originally written in Chinese. There's an international standard for code, but there are many barriers to entry on that front. And so I give props to again the likes of Austin and Mitch, who have done really great work on, and Nicholas McCutcherson from Las Vegas, who taught me so much about how the firmware works and how you can change it even between different versions of from the manufacturer, from
Mm-hmm.
Begode or Leaperkim. You can choose the firmware you like and adjust the settings that they're giving us more and more settings now. I've found it's more productive to focus on the hardware and utilize the firmware for better or for worse. And so I give props to other folks who have been pushing Bigo to offer more options. I know Roger has talked to them in adding
Yeah.
more adjustments to discharge amps on the battery and phase settings. And so you can adjust how much power you're extracting from the battery and motor through the app. But again, it's when you give users these settings, you run the risk that they change the wrong ones and turn things too high and cause other issues with the wheel. So I understand the apprehension to give casual riders too much adjustment in their wheel.
Well,
Um,
yeah, they're in the chat. They're saying
yeah,
they
it's a
want to
great
see
question,
you.
and
They want to see
it,
you
it's
build
the
a
forefront.
wheel with Austin Manhold, and Austin. They sent Austin
I would love
a
that.
they sent him a request, and now Austin's in the chat. What's up, Austin? Saying what's up to Austin in the chat.
Oh, oh, what's
Yeah,
up, Austin?
good to see you, boy,
Now,
brother.
Austin
I
has
don't know.
released designs.
I haven't seen the designs, but apparently everybody else has because they're talking
Very
about
exciting.
it.
Yep. So Austin's released designs for a custom electric unicycle with the new form of shock and a more durable construction. And he's very knowledgeable about the firmware, and very excited to see where he goes with it. I'd love to work with him, and we can have a meeting of the minds, exchange ideas, and hopefully
Yeah.
make something great.
So you heard that, Austin. You got to have a chat with Declan. You guys maybe come together and you can help him build something that looks decent and and you guys can come up with a game plan and make it work. So Seth said, "All we just need to raise $500,000 and we're good." So, uh,
It
yeah.
definitely would help.
Well, he said 250,000, but let's go half. Fuck it. Anyway,
Oh,
Austin.
okay, yeah, that helps too.
Austin, I'm not familiar with what they're talking about. I'm gonna have to look it up if you would, Austin, if you wouldn't mind, man, if you could send me some of the stuff they're talking about, and maybe we need to have you on the show so we could talk about what you were doing as well, and shine some light on that as well, because it's definitely something that I'd like to talk about. It's my understanding you were on the show with Sensei Vegan already, so I'll have to maybe go back and check that out. And yeah, maybe we do a show with both you guys, give you a chance to collaborate on screen. But I know you have some more stuff back there. He's tinkering back there. Oh, Seth. Also, you said something. He said, "I still think a training or beginner wheel would be best for the U.S. market, so we can teach more people." And I'm telling you, that's why I was thinking about the Falcon and because it's more powerful than the A2, but it's the same size and kind of the form factor that I think a lot of people could learn on, because it's not aggressive looking, it's not too big, and it's something people probably could step on and learn on. So that may be the one we use. But what do you got over there? I see you got something teed up for us. What do you got?
So this is another race wheel that I'm sure a lot of you may have already seen. This is actually the particular A2 that was jumped into a lake by Seth Johnson. and, and after the fact, it was operable, but having issues. And so we at my shop were able to fully rebuild it for Nico to race in Toronto at the PEV Games hosted by the crew they have up there. Shout out to Brett, E-Rider A. Great rider, great guy. He put that
Yes,
on for
yes.
everyone with a lot of
Love
help
that
from
guy.
his crew, Karen, Kira, Jen, those folks. They did a great job. And yep, Nico was racing this wheel after the fact. So we did all the upgrades that I was talking about for the other wheels, put them inside this one, because again, it's the same technology that powers all these EUCs. Even though they're different shapes and colors and sizes, they're powered by the same stuff. So we put Molicel P42 batteries, additional
What?
capacitors, a smart
What?
BMS, and a more powerful motor inside, all inside.
Oh
The only
my
thing we couldn't fit
god.
is the wires and connector, but everything else, it is still reasonably waterproof and it runs great. We got this lovely street tire on here, still tubeless, and this wheel was a learning experience in the perils of a tubeless tire. And so even if it is able to hold air, once you're using it, it might not. And so tubeless tire sealant is a valuable addition if that's your setup, particularly if there's a dent in your rim, you will be compromised on the tubeless seal. So it's
Yeah,
a valuable
definitely.
lesson. And that's really what racing is about, is
Okay,
lessons.
okay.
But
Well,
yep, just wanted to show another race wheel that you might have seen
yeah.
already. We took it out the lake. We had to replace the motherboard, and it's working great again.
Love it, love it, love it. Shouts out to Turbo, who's now in the chat. Turbo! Yeah, Turbo, we had a
Shout
conversation
out to
about
Turbo,
you.
a great
Yeah.
racer.
Your
Yep,
hopefully well, I know your
another
ears
great
are ringing
racer.
because we were talking about you, bro. Nothing bad, nothing
I'll
bad.
bring out another tiny wheel. So this is actually the wheel that I was racing in Toronto. This is an MCM5. So this wheel is my attempt at building the smallest, lightest, most powerful, not most powerful, but reasonably powerful electric unicycle. So it weighs 30, 35 pounds, but it
Wow.
goes 30, 32 miles per hour. So that's 1 pound per mile per hour. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that ratio. It right now has a knobby tire. Again, it has P42 batteries, smart BMS, upgraded motor wires, the full kit, and it
Wow.
runs great. The biggest difference: this has the same tire size, tiny tire, same tire size as the A2. However, the firmware allows you to ride it 5 miles per hour faster. And so I was very frustrated because when I was testing the A2, I discovered that limit by cutting out. And so it's frustrating that the firmware is the limiting factor in these devices. And I had talked to Millie about changing the firmware on the A2 and using the same MCM5 firmware, but they weren't willing to cooperate with me on that. So maybe just going to swap in a different board and see if it works that way. But it really reflects on how much the firmware can unlock the components that you have. But it's reasonable that they are tuned down because it constraints on the battery, the amount of energy you're extracting from the battery. So when your firmware settings are low, it's a safer experience. Your battery is less strained, but the reality is that you're not able to ride as fast or to go up hills as easily, and that can create other dangerous situations. So everything in life is a trade-off.
Well,
but that's really the lesson of those two wheels.
Yeah, I will say I'm struggling, and I don't know if it's your internet connection on your end. You're grainy, so I couldn't really see how good that was. The wheel is, but I can hear you fine. It's just I feel like you're
okay.
You're
I can show it again a little bit. Hold it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop out and just.
It's nothing too flashy. It's what's on the inside that counts. You know.
Yeah, but, I just wanted to see if you could tell, if we could tell all the upgrades that you made. Because it looks the same.
I've done a good job of sneaking them all in there. There's nothing really external apart from the charge port, which is its own story. But I did a good job. I raced this at Amped Electric Games on the off-road course, and it's funny because all of the race checkpoint monitors were thinking that it was a different wheel. Someone said it was an InMotion V10, and someone said it's a Nikola. And it's funny, it's the sister of the Nikola, but people forget about this one. It's a personal favorite of mine. Tiny but powerful, the MCM5.
Why didn't you use a Nikola?
And with an off-road tire, Pirelli. I do have a Nikola here as well, an off-road one. I can show you as well, but I use it more as a commuter, casual riding kind of a wheel. It's better for chilling and relaxing because the pedals are lower to the ground. It has a more stable kind of feeling, but when you take tight turns, the pedals can scrape. So this one, relative to its size, it actually has pretty tall pedals, but the Nikola pedals are a similar height, even though it's a larger tire. So that's
okay. Well, keep it going.
I'll bring out my Nikola.
What you got? Bring up the next one.
Let's go. Let's go. That
one. Yeah. So shouts out to everybody in the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Do me a favor, if you're in here, hit that like button, smash that like button. I'm sure you subscribed already, so please go ahead and hit that like button. And we're going to move on to Declan's next wheel. What you got for us, Declan?
So this is a Nikola, and it's another example of a wheel that was revived from the dead. So this is a Nikola that was left out. It used to be Sparkles Nikola. Shout out to Sparkles. I took this in a trade, and it was under a table when I found it with water actively inside it still.
Oh, my God.
But we were able to salvage the shell and the motor and the pedals, so it was a decent find, and I was able to bring it back to life, ride it off-road. I rode it at Hyperfest through very intense mud. I'm not sure if you can see this tire is a very gnarly...
it's aggressive. That's an aggressive
very
tire.
Aggressive. And I'm not sure if anyone's fitted this kind of a tire on a Nikola. We actually had to raise the shell to fit these knobs here on the top. We had to raise the shell up.
Wow.
On the hangers by changing the screw holes, drilling them out in a different spot, and then also cut so much of this plastic to get it to fit. But we did, I think, a good job, and it looks pretty clean overall.
Definitely.
So, I'm a fan of the Nikola.
Yeah, it looks like a hot mess. As far as aesthetics are concerned, with regards to prettiness, but as far as it having a complete covered shell, no exposed wires or bomb looking like material, then if you want, if that's the criteria, then we're doing good.
On the inside, I have the first generation of Gotway 100-volt batteries. These are the 1230 watt hour packs with the original smaller 18650 cells, the Sanyo GAs, and these have been very
Uh-huh.
stable over time. So even though they're over 6 years old, I'm getting great performance out of them. And I had to add a new BMS to one of the packs because it was busted and not charging properly. But I
Right.
added a smart BMS to that pack, and then it was able to balance all the cells, and now it's running again perfect. So
All
that's what's
right.
in this wheel. And the reason I chose those batteries is that they are substantially lighter. So even though the you're using the same number of batteries, where we have 24S4P, that's 98 cells. So I've got 98 cells in here. The newer Nikolas also have 98 cells, but because they're smaller, so we have, I'll show you a side by side here. We have the small battery, and we have the big battery. I'm
Huh.
using a bunch of the small batteries and some GodMods, the capacitors, and that overall weight is substantially lower because you see how much these are very dense. So the weight difference between these two is roughly 30%. So I'm still getting tremendous weight savings. This Nikola is lighter than any other you will find on the road, and it's great for off road. I took it through the mud, didn't slide one time because of this amazing tire. So it's a sleeper wheel, definitely. And I did intend to race it at Oak City Shred Fest, but I found the suspension was beneficial on the off road course.
Yeah,
Not.
well, the tire is definitely aggressive. I'm looking at that tire
Yep.
going, that's mean. I have a Shinko 244 on my Master, and I
Oh, those
absolutely
are
love
great.
it. That's
Me
my
too.
favorite tire because I like to
Yep.
go on road and off road. I like to be able to transition between the two, and so far that's my favorite
Yep.
for that.
Yep.
So
I
what
totally
else? What
agree.
else? What else you got? What else you got?
Let's see. I have another master, and then I have another working project that I'm developing. So I'll bring out that final race master.
Unreal, unreal, ladies and gentlemen. He has some of the craziest stuff. And what's funny to me is I didn't think anybody was gonna make me give me that same feeling that I get when I look at Panda's wheels. But Declan has succeeded in giving me that holy shit vibe. Uh,
So this is a street master that I fully customized top to bottom. It has the full system upgrade in it. The bumpers are made by a local rider in DC, Jason McPherson. Shout out to Jason. He's a great DIYer in the UC space. And this master, I've done the full system upgrade that I've been talking about. I have the very large GodMod in the back, both sides, the motor upgrade, as well as the motherboard upgrade, and the charge board delete that I was talking about. So instead of the conventional charge board that most the Goad wheels have now, where all your batteries plug into individual ports on this charging board, and then they have to go through all of this circuitry. Instead, I've designed a wiring harness that circumvents that, and you're able to plug in your batteries directly and get power straight from the main output. Oops. So
so where does that output go?
that output goes straight onto the main board. So you just plug it back into your main motherboard
Gotcha.
connection. You would just plug it back in here, and it's just
So you're getting the
yep,
straight juice. So it's like
that's right.
instead of getting the diluted juice, you're getting the straight
Exactly.
juice.
That's right. That's right.
All right. So
It's
in case you guys did, I was listening. I was
akin to a
listening.
straight pipe.
Right. He's mainlining. He's giving us the straight.
That's
The
right.
straight. You can't handle the juice.
That's exactly it. It works really
Okay.
well. And so with this master, I'm still using the original 50E batteries, but because of the upgrades that I've done, I'm able to extract more power out of it than a V4 master with 50S batteries that doesn't have any of these upgrades. And I've done this comparison side by side. The way I know that, it's been asked of me very reasonably, is how can you tell? Well, if I'm going up a very steep hill, it requires a certain amount of lean from my body. I have to pull my chest over the front of the wheel a certain amount. And on this version of an EUC with the weaker batteries, but the more powerful system, I'm leaning a little bit. On the newer one, better batteries, but everything else is still weaker. I have to lean much, much further. And so what that translates into is less reserve on your power, the buffer, the amount of power that you have, and it's a less enjoyable experience because you don't have a comfortable riding stance. So the benefits of this kind of an upgrade is a machine that works better and it's more comfortable to ride. You don't have to push as hard. Um, a
Okay.
lot of it is underneath the hood, but I can showcase the suspension. These are the Sheridan Miller linkages. Shout out to Sheridan. So we got the
Ah.
connectors in there as well. And I'm charging through an XT90, charging through this port up here, and that allows me to charge at any speed that I want to. And I pay adherence to the battery limits, so I do the math on that. You have 4 cells in parallel, and they're limited to 4 amps each. That would be a reasonable limit of 16 amps, and they can do more than 4 amps. So I'm rounding, but that would give you a number of 10 being reasonable. But
Mm-hmm.
the charging board that we're talking about has limits, and it will power off automatically while you're charging, which can be a bit annoying. So there's value to going with this route. And the other fun upgrade that a lot of people like, and you'll notice there are no pads on this wheel as well.
I
The
noticed.
fun upgrade is that I power it on by jump starting these 2 red and black wires here. And the reason for that is I've had tremendous frustration from the screen that comes with these wheels, and so I wanted a way to run the wheel without that, and this is that way. So I touch the 2 red and black wires together, and it powers on. I'm not going to do it because it's on the bench, but it
So
works exactly the same as a regular battery, and so it's a regular power button, and it doesn't have any issues while I'm moving. People have asked. It's the same. You'll just turn on the lights if you were to hit it. Um,
but what happens if those two wires come apart while you're
uh,
riding?
well, they don't have to hold together. They need to make a touch, and then the wheel comes on.
Ah.
So it's
And that helps you bypass the screen, he said?
yeah, exactly. So in place of a screen, I use those 2 wires, and I could put a button on there. I might do that sometime, but I was focused on reliability and just wanted something that was very simple to deal with, hard to break.
See, those are ideas that I just wouldn't come up with. Like, I'm like, huh? Like
It
that
looked
that's reminiscent of, hot wire in a car.
that's right.
And
That's right. Exactly. Yes.
yeah, and I'm like, it doesn't instill confidence. But then
I get
again,
that.
you built it, so you have all
Yep.
the confidence that you need.
And I'm looking into alternatives. I was looking at a light switch. Maybe we'll put a fun little light switch. To me, people are hung up on tradition and conventional, the way things ought to be, but there are no rules about this stuff. It's a
Yeah,
very new technology space. In my mind, things should be safe and functional, and that
yeah.
is the foundation of any build.
Well,
Safe and
that's the whole point. You're right. Electric Unicycle asks, well, what happens if the wires touch when you're riding? Will it shut off?
oh, right. So as I was saying, it would turn on the light. The power button does not turn off the wheel unless it's at a full or nearly complete stop. So it would just turn on the light.
So the same thing that would happen if you hit your power button while you were riding.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a
All
great
right.
question.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Unicycle. That those are kind of things that we're wondering because I'm not in the hot wiring business, but
That's right.
I usually have to chase people with that hot wire stuff. But in this case, I'll make an exception for my man
I own
Declan
this
over
one.
here.
I paid for it. I have the
Where's the
charger still.
where's the pink slip? Where's the pink slip?
That's right. That's right. I lost it in a race. Look out the
Bravo,
wheel,
bravo,
though, right?
bravo.
Shout out to Wheezy.
Yeah, shout out to
He won that
Wheezy.
wheel. We all know it.
Yeah. Shout out to Wheezy. Shout out to you, Stride. We got to be both
That's right. Shout out to
sided.
you, Stride.
Yeah.
He lost fair and square.
That yeah, that was their beef, not ours.
That's right. That's
so,
right. I don't want to step on any toes.
Yeah, definitely. So,
But we-
at any rate, I just want to say that to everybody that missed Hyperfest, oh man, you missed a great event. Declan can tell you that we had a fantastic team there. This was
Lots
one
of
of our
fun.
biggest events ever. And let me tell you that, everybody that was there will tell you that this was one amazing time from the fun time that we had out while we were teaching and teaching while we were demonstrating and giving a show to the times that we went to eat or sat around and were sharing emotion. It was an emotional time. We had a there was some
Yep.
weeping. There was but
We
but we
laughed, we
yeah,
cried, we
yes,
made
it was the
friends.
best of times. It
That's
wasn't the
right. That's
worst.
right.
It was the best of time. But I can tell you that there's a lot of great things coming from Amped Electric Games. So if you're not paying attention, you should. Um, there's a lot of events that the team is trying to get to, and now we have hooked up into different a different category altogether because those all the gas vehicles that are used to going, Mach 10 or whatever, and doing drifting and all this kind of stuff. Now they're also looking like at us like, that's interesting. So we turned a few heads, and at the next event, when we're able to do more like our jumping and our teaching and riding around the facility, there's going to be a lot more people that are interested in these wheels. I'm seeing them more mainstream. Hopefully, going to be get into many more events. I'm not going to speak about too many things, but Seth has done a great job. Nick has done a great job. The whole team has really done a great
Yep.
job in trying to get us into where we can get in where you fit in, as I always say. And I think that we
Amen.
are getting these wheels into all kinds of places where they fit. And we're going to get a lot more riders. So I'm hoping to get a lot more interest. I'm going to try. I don't know if I'm going to be successful. I'm going to try and get a Falcon to raffle off at the Wheel Life Rally to give people another opportunity to see another one of the new wheels. I'm working on that. If it doesn't work, then we'll get another wheel. But I'm trying to get something new. I'm trying to continue the same process. Amped Electric Games is bringing people together, and here in New England, that's what I'm trying to do with the Wheel Life Rally as well. Bring new riders together, bringing people together to have fun from all over. Last year we had a great Canada crew. I'm hoping we have another one this year. Declan, I'm hoping that you can make it down for
I
August
would
3rd
love
and
to.
4th. Because that is the date, August 3rd and 4th for the Wheel Life Rally. I'm hoping that we can get a good number of the AMP team, but also a good number of riders from all over. Last year, like I said, Canada was the farthest. Let's see what the farthest this year we can get. um, and
Yeah, it's a great
Declan,
event. Can't wait to make it out.
yeah, Declan, you were amazing, and I'm glad that you could come and sit with us today and give us a host of peculiar and interesting things because you have definitely shown us some things that I definitely did not know about. But I'm excited to know that it's a possibility. And honestly, even though I already know that you are a mad engineer, mad scientist, and you have great ideas. Seeing all of them together in such a short span of time, and all of you that you've been able to accomplish with your creativity is awe inspiring. Um,
It means so
yeah,
much. Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you, man. I'm glad that we have
Likewise.
someone like you in this space because
I'm not the
we
only one.
no, and I know, and that's what I mean. Like, I was glad that we were able to reach out to Austin even while we're doing this, and there's
Yes.
others. There's plenty of others, and what I mean by this is the fact that you're able to be in this space and give something to us to continue to open our minds. And this is a group of people who already have open minds because
Exactly.
we're already riding these damn things. So
That's
we
right.
have open minds, and for
Yes.
you to be able to open our minds even further and push what's possible in our view, it's amazing to know that there's a lot to come from these amazing wheels. And just when we think, this does a lot, I wish it could do a little bit more, then there's
Yep.
people like you that can give
Mhm.
us a little bit more, you know?
That's right.
So it is just that. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Keep
Thank you.
pushing the envelope. Keep collaborating with others to try and make all
Yes.
of what we do better. And and I look forward to all the things that you have to offer.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. I every time I get a wheel, I'm like, okay, do I need a Declan upgrade? I mean, you
It's
know,
a good way to think about it because, yep, some of them it's definitely pretty essential, or you got
yeah.
to be careful with it.
Yeah, but the future is bright. I
That's
mean,
right.
our future is really bright. There are tons of wheels coming out, and
Mhm.
there's so much on the horizon that I'm anxious to see what not only what the companies are coming out with, but what the community can do with them. And that's
Yes,
what I love. You know, on the AMP team, we have so many people that can do great things riding these wheels. And we also have people behind the scenes like Declan that can
that's
do
right.
great things editing these wheels, upgrading
And
these
Kenzie,
wheels, and pushing them. And Kenzie, yes, Kenzie's
shout
another
out to
one.
Kenzie, very
Yes.
knowledgeable, part of the AMP team. Yep,
Yeah.
the
Welcome
major
aboard,
input.
Kenzie. We were glad to
Mhm.
welcome Kenzie aboard, to put her in the mix with her creativity and energy as well.
Yep,
There was a lot, man. There was juggling, there was racing, there was jousting, there was everything we had going on, and there's been a lot of events. AVS, that's another great event. There's so many great events that
that's right.
we're hoping that you guys really put a lot of these events on your calendar, and you're able to follow us around and come to all the different events that we're going to be at, because we try to focus on the best events we can think of, but there are other great events that we haven't been able to make it to. Excuse me, and we're going to add those to the list when we can. But as we say when we talk about AMPed, remember, AMPed is a grassroots organization that is started from people with passion and love for this community and for this sport. It is not a big company that has all this. There's none of that. I know that people think, well, AMP has the money to do. No, AMP does not. Okay, AMP is a team of people who are putting our heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears into trying to make this sport and this community better. That's what we want to do. We want the masses to adopt what we are doing, and we are bringing it to them in a palatable way that they can really digest it, and that's what we want, because some people see us and they're like, hey, I can't do that. So we want to break it down to where they think, oh, maybe I could, and that's what we're doing by going to all these events and reaching out to people, and touching base with people and letting them see that, oh, it's possible. Oh, it's doable. And that's exactly what we want to continue to do. So Declan, I just want to say thank you again, and
Of course.
ask, is there anything else you want to share with us? You were able to share these amazing wheels and all your creations, the event that you were able to enter with e-wheels. Is there anything
Yep.
else you want to share before we go?
I'm just so happy to be helping the EUC community stay running. Anyone that comes to me for advice, I'm happy to share my wisdom, help you fix your own equipment. If you can't fix it, you can bring it to me, you can ship it to me, and I can get it running for you. And if I can't get it running, I'll get in touch with someone who can. If you want custom batteries, extra batteries, fix your batteries, I've done it all. Happy to help anyone. I don't turn anyone away, and I do my best to keep fair pricing. Charge
Yeah.
for materials and labor. I have spent so much time with EUCs. I love what they are. I love where they're going and how they're getting better all the time. And I'm happy to be a part of that process, learning every
Well,
day.
that's fantastic, brother. I again, big hug, and
Yes,
lots of love
internet
out to
hug.
you, brother.
Yep,
Because I know that you are a kindred spirit. You have the same amount of passion, positivity, and love for the community as I do. So
absolutely.
I really salute you. And I
Thank you.
thank you again for
Thank you so much.
sharing and coming on the show. And everybody in the chat, I appreciate you guys for stopping by. Please feel free to hit that like button. Make sure you share this with everybody so they can hear and see the creativity of Declan, because many people ask about it, and now they can go back and watch. And I look
And
forward
there's
to
many
our
more to come.
yeah, I look forward to our
Always more
next
to come.
collaboration.
That's right.
All
I'll
right.
drop a teaser on my next project.
Ooh.
I've got a non-suspension wheel in the works, and I've figured out how to get the batteries in the bottom. So this is my
Oh.
next hot project. Not saying anything else, but here goes, everyone. This is gonna be the next winner.
Uh-oh. Okay. Well, thank you for that
See you later.
little glimpse into the future. You guys,
Yep,
everybody have a fantastic night. I am very happy to have been here. My name is Erwin Green, the Black Cobra. This is Declan, GodMod, the man, the myth, the legend. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and we'll see you guys